Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Sunday edition of the Baton Rouge.net user group stream. So, I guess we're going to wait a little bit to see if we get any more people join us. But today, what we're actually going to do is we're going to walk through publishing a Azure static web app using Azure DevOps. So, this is some functionality that was recently released, and I need to know how to do it anyway. So I figured what better way to do it than live on stream with a few of my friends. We'll also, as usual, publish this to our YouTube channel. So this is just an attempt from us to create more content for the people who want to be involved in the group, who want to watch, who just want to know what's going on out there, and any way we can help provide info, we will. So again, this is just going to be a light and easy Sunday morning stream. So I kind of ran through this example a few times on my own yesterday just to kind of get a feel for what's going on. I have not done any kind of deep dive research into this, so we're going to kind of learn together. You'll get to see some insight as to how I go about things and just kind of poke and prod. If you're in the chat, please feel free to ask questions. I can't promise you that I'll know the answer, but we'll give it a shot. So this is also me testing out the new stream setup. It looks like everything is going well so far. Let's check out the twitch.tv / Baton Rouge .NET user group stuff. Anyway, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian McCoy. I am one of the co-leaders of we'll just call it the Baton Rouge.net user group. I run it in tandem with Jeremy Knight and a couple other people who help out occasionally. So those who you will see most of the time. We stream our user group meetings the second Wednesday of every month. We have some upcoming meetings that look like they're going to be really exciting, so I hope everyone tunes in for that. So without further ado, I will go ahead and transition so you can see my screen and you can see what we're going to be talking about today. So the other day I was scrolling through LinkedIn, as one does, and saw John Papa post this article saying that publishing static web apps with Azure DevOps is available in preview. So I wanted to give it a shot. I use Azure DevOps every day at work. Publishing static web apps is something that we're going to be doing here shortly. So I figured I might as well go ahead and get my feet wet and see what it's all about. I know we've recently had a lot of really good talks on static websites, as far as static website generators like Gatsby and things of that nature. And I know they use some different services. I think 11T and I can't remember the other one, to actually do their deployments or host their sites. So now Microsoft always kind of had that offering, but now it's getting a little bit more streamlined, and they have introduced the functionality to deploy those static websites through Azure DevOps. And that's something that really interests me. So we're going to walk through this tutorial together, kind of see what's going on, see how this works, maybe explore a little bit. So the first thing you'll need to do if you're interested in deploying a static website or a static web app, and that's going to be important, the app part, is to set up your free accounts. I've had a Azure DevOps account for quite a while with my own personal account. It's free. I've never paid for it. I hope it's still free. They don't have my credit card information, so that's cool. I do have my own personal Azure account that we're going to use. So hopefully I don't leak any important information as I'm doing this. So as you go through, the first thing we're going to need to do is actually create a project to import this static website into. So Microsoft has provided this static website for us. I have it pulled down here. Let's see if you can see that. I have this pulled down so you can tell it's a basic index.html is what we're going to call. But the reason why we keep calling this a static web app is because it does actually ship with an Azure function. So we're actually going to have an API backend that's going to get deployed as well. So if you need to host something more than just static files, this option is going to, you actually want some kind of functionality on the back end. This is actually going to allow us to ship something as in a function. So in this case, it's going to be an Azure function that's going to get shipped. You can see here, the response is strictly going to be, hello from this API. It's nothing fancy, but the important thing is that it is going to be a function that you could write some code in and actually maybe submit a form, if you have a sign up sheet or something of that nature, to go ahead and to add that added functionality. Static web apps also come with a bunch of additional functionality. We'll go ahead and take a look at it real quick. So here you can see we have the integrated API, which is really nice. We also have the ability to deploy through GitHub Actions and through Azure DevOps. So that's what we're actually going to explore today. Then you get all of the additional Azure functionality that comes along with it. If you've ever tried to host just static websites, you could do that. You've been able to do that in blob storage for a while now, so you can do that. You get a bunch of functionality for free out of the box with SSL, custom domains. Here they've also integrated some Azure Active Directory and other third-party authentication systems. So this is really getting built and shipped as, a full stack development. You're going to be able to do anything. You're going to be able to build your basic web apps. So, hey, we have somebody. How's it going out there? So, yeah, you're going to be able to build essentially full stack websites and deploy them to Azure relatively cheap and easily. So down here, you can get an idea of the things that they support as far as static web apps. One that I'm mostly interested in is Blazor. If today goes well, we're going to go, if today goes well, we could explore this in future streams and see what it looks like to actually deploy Blazor applications with the Azure function backend. But for today, it's just going to be this simple static web app, this simple static web page. So like I said, nothing fancy. This again is the repo that they provide in the workthrough. Yeah, well, you came to the right place. Hopefully you'll learn something today. So yeah, we're actually going to skip this step though. We're going to build our first static web app later. Right now, we're just going to deploy it with Azure DevOps to Azure. So we should be fun. So let's kind of skip back to the tutorial. What we can see here are the Azure accounts again. I have them up. So here is Azure DevOps. This is my my organization. So these are some personal projects that I've had for years that I've never done anything with. Actually, I think I built this one out. And then here is my Azure subscription. Hopefully I don't leak any information. You can see I don't have anything as far as resources are concerned now. So we're going to actually create those on the fly. So here, let's go back to our tutorial. As like I said, the tutorial is actually going to give you a repo that we're going to be able to clone and import into our new project. So let's see, test is empty. Yep. So if we come back over to here, we're going to go ahead and create a new project. Our new project's going to be test static sites. We're not going to really care about a description. For those of you who are new to Azure DevOps, you're going to see it's going to scaffold out a whole lot of functionality for us around Kanban boards or anything like that you can use you could use for tracking projects and app development. So And go ahead and create that project for us. It's going to go ahead and scaffold everything out. Nice. So next we're going to want to come in here and actually, so let's real quick, we can look, this is an overview. So you can actually, you have your Agile boards. You can come in here and create work items, tasks, things of that nature. This is going to be our Git repo that our project is actually going to contain for us. So what we're going to do here in a second is actually import that link that they provide in the tutorial. So we can import that code in from GitHub. This is going to be the pipelines that we're going to create to actually deploy our application. We're not going to do anything as far as build is concerned. So we're not going to do any test plans, and we're not producing any artifacts, but you can actually clean all this up if you want. You don't need to have all these things. It's super customizable. But for now, we're going to go ahead and import. We know we have a GitHub repository, so let's go ahead and paste that in and import it. So it's on its way. It's going out to get it for us. It should take just a few minutes. So let's come back over here and look. So while that's actually being imported, we can look. Next, we're going to navigate to the Azure portal, and we want to create a new resource, which will actually be our static website resource. I just got the email saying that it was created. So you can look in here real quick, and you can see it has imported our little test app. So you can see here's the web page, and just to prove that we did it, I should be able to edit this. Live demo. We can commit it. Sure. We're just gonna go straight to main. So we have our own personal repo stood up with our app inside of it. We've edited it. Let's see. Are you deploying? No, we're gonna be deploying to Azure. So that's what we're going to use today. We're going to be deploying to Azure. So we'll come in here. We're going to create a new resource, and it's actually going to be static web app. You can see it's still in preview. We'll walk through some of it and kind of show you. You can tell that they're still working through some things. So let me actually pull this off. See other screen. I'm going to click create. I just want to make sure my app ID doesn't get anywhere on here. Nope. Okay, cool. So pull it back over just so you can see some pretty basic functionality. They don't have a whole lot. Usually if you come in here to create resources, there's going to be a bunch more tabs, but right now there's really not a whole lot. So we're going to select a resource group. This is just how I'm going to get build, and we can do Brian test static site region. So here for deployment details, we're going to actually select other. So this is what's going to allow us to actually deploy from Azure DevOps into our static app resource for Azure. So we'll kind of step through tags. There's nothing that we need to tag, and then review and code. Oh, look, it hit my subscription ID. Great. Okay. So I'm using the plugin to actually kind of to hide this. So that way I don't leak any important information, but worst case scenario, I'll just blow it all away. So here, that's all it takes to create your static app resource. You're basically just saying, hey, I want a static app resource in Azure. Azure, basically anything you want to deploy into Azure is considered a resource. So if you wanted to deploy a virtual machine to Azure, it would be a virtual machine resource. The same as there's App Insights resources, so that way you could get your telemetry and logging or whatever else that you want of that nature. So here, we're going to go ahead and create it. It's submitting to deployment, and it goes. And I don't know if I just leaked anything important. Let me check. No, I didn't. All right, great. So you can see that it's actually been deployed. So we have our resource. So if we actually go to it, Check one more time, make sure my things go to resource. It actually didn't hide it. Let's refresh. All right, cool. So now we have our resource deployed. You can see the name. It's Brian Test Static Site. Here's some information around App Insights. You can see here there's actually a place for functions. There's a place for custom domains. What else? I guess that's about it. Here's some other info. If you actually want to hit the site, it would be this URL right here. I noticed that with this, it doesn't actually let you. Usually you could put something custom in front of this .static.apps, but maybe because it's still in preview, you can't put the custom. But anyway, if you want to come in and actually reroute your custom domains to this resource, you would do it through here, through this configuration. So yeah, no. So now we have our static web app. It's doesn't have anything in it because we haven't deployed anything to it. But what we would then need to do is come in here and take this token. So I'll go ahead and copy that. Well, I'll have to come back to it in a second. So now we'll flip back to here to make sure I'm going along the right direction. So we've created our resource. We've created our static web app. It's in preview. We selected create. We selected a resource group. We clicked other, so that way you can see here, it's going to give us the option to do Azure DevOps, which is what we want. Let's see, review and create, we're there. I actually copied the deployment token, but I'm gonna have to copy some other stuff here in a second, so we're gonna get rid of that. Yeah, so now we actually wanna go into our repo here and let's see. Oh, I may have screwed it up. Let's see. We want to set up a build. So in Azure DevOps, there's the concept of builds and releases. In this case, we're going to build and release in the same instance. That's just part of the tutorial. But normally, if you were setting this up for some type of production environment, you'd actually want to just run your build, drop your artifacts somewhere, and then run through the release pipeline. And the release pipeline is going to allow you to do things like stage gates and seek approval before you actually put something to a new environment. It's more for enterprise type things, for where you actually have a dev, test, and production environment. Here we're just pushing straight to production, so we're just going to set up a new build. And we're going to want I believe it's a starter pipeline. Let me double check real quick. Yeah, we just want a starter pipeline, and I'm actually going to take this YAML. So all of the builds the builds that we're going to be doing they're actually going to be YAML based. So you can come in here. You can see there's a sample YAML file already set up for us, but we don't want to use it. We're actually going to get rid of it and paste what the tutorial offered us. And we'll just kind of look at it real quick. So you can see here that whenever something gets checked into the main branch, it's actually going to trigger this build. So that's what that means. It's going to use a VM image of the latest version of Ubuntu in order to do basically the steps that are going to be listed below. Right now, we only have one step, and it's this Azure Static Web App, which that's the name of the task. So Microsoft has provided us with a task or a template that they basically wrapped in their functionality that's going to allow us to push out to Azure. So it has all the logic bits built into it. They're really nice about doing stuff like that for us. So here it's going to accept a set of inputs, which will be your app location, which is just a /. So you can see it's actually going to correlate to how we have our folders laid out here. So inside the root folder, you can see that / there's your index.html. So that's where it's going to pull that from. And then the API location is actually going to be in the API folder. So that's where that's going to get pulled from. Not too sure what the output location is. And then we have the static web app API token. API token. So basically, what we're going to get is an API token that's going to allow us to publish to our resource in Azure. So if you want to look just for fun, you can see there is some IntelliSense here. But what you can actually do if you're building one of these YAML files out is click this little icon over here to show the assistant. And if we actually look, we'd be able to type in Azure static, deploy Azure static resource app. And it's going to give us a list of things that we could put in. So app location, we could actually do, I think it would just be this. We don't have a build command because we just have a static site that's already been generated. So if you were to use something like Gatsby, where you actually had to build your static files based off of the markdown that you provided it, you would actually put your build command in here. I assume that's what that's for. I guess that's where the output of the build command would be. And then your API location would be your folder again, like we did before. If it had a build location, I don't think a build command, and I don't know what the routes location is. So if you were to add it, you can see that it looks strikingly similar to what we have above. So except for the environment variable. So now we know that we have an environment variable and it has this deployment token variable that it's actually looking for. So if you click on this tab here, you can actually define variables. So let's keep that a secret. Let's copy that. So that's my key. That's going to let me send things out, and click OK. So now I have a hidden variable, so that way people can't come in here and, oh, did I not save it? Let me try this again. Copy variable, new variable. Oh, maybe I did. Oh, there we go, save. There we go, now we got it. So now we have our variable defined. And what this is going to allow us to do is actually, like I said, push this app to our resource in the cloud and to Azure. So now if I click save and run, what are you doing? I want to make sure I'm doing this right. So make sure we're following this. So here's some descriptions as to what those options are actually for in the static web app. Sorry, I'm just checking to make sure. It looks like the stream's still going. So again, we went through, we created our new variable, we got our deployment token, we copied the token into the value box. We said keep it as a secret. Selected OK, select save. Now we're at the point where we can actually save and run it. So let's go ahead and save and run. And the build pipeline for Azure DevOps is actually going to pull in those files from the repo, run, well, we only have one task, which is the deploy to Azure static web apps. If you look in here, you can actually see it queued up. It gives you a whole bunch of information, so you can see where the job's been initialized. It'll give you some information about what's going on there, so you can see the agent machine name, which will be hosted in the cloud. Let's see here, you can say it's actually pulling our Git. It's actually pulling from a repository and dropping it to a folder for us, so that way it can execute the next task, which will be this one, where we're actually going to deploy our static web app to Azure. So just let that roll through. Once it's done, we'll be able to come back into our portal and actually hit it and be able to see what we've done and the changes we've made. So again, just checking out. I've had some internet issues running this in the past, so I just want to make sure we're still going. All right, so now it says that it's finished. Everything looks like it's done successfully. We go here, close that, and we click here. So now you can actually see, here's the vanilla JavaScript live demo app. This is actually not working right now. So because the function is, it usually takes a second. So now you can actually see that we have the app running in Azure. You could hit this website and get to it. At least while I'm streaming, because after I'm streaming, I will probably delete it. But you can see that now we have our app our static web app hosted in Azure with a function backend. So if we come in here and look back at our folder structure, just to kind of get an idea, you can see, like I said, here's our basic static site. So vanilla JavaScript web app, and you can actually see the differences where I typed in live demo. So you can tell that I actually did that live. This is loading content from the API, and it should be bold. So here you can see a function that just gets ran whenever the page is loaded. It goes out, fetches a message from this API endpoint, and then returns the message and just sticks it into the inner HTML. So you could see there that it is actually making the call, and you can we actually saw that whenever we loaded things slowly. And if we come into this API right here, you can actually see here's our function. This is the Azure configuration for our function. So we can say that, anybody can hit it. It's an HTTP trigger, which means you just make a web request to it. It supports GET. The route is message. The type is HTTP. So all that fun stuff. Here, you can see our message right here. It's just hello from the API. It's all it does. It's actually responds with that. This isn't even filled out. So if we went here and this is a live demo message. We should hit hello from the API. So you can see our function is actually running in the background. We're able to hit it. So that's actually really nice. This gives us, like I said, this gives you the ability to actually stand up an app with an API backend in a relatively short amount of time. It'll be really useful to get up and going if you need to. Once you could develop your function in any way you want. They offer support for a whole bunch of different languages. Obviously, this is a node-based Azure function. Let's see if we come back in here. Now, let me pull this off to the side just real quick. Refresh it, make sure. Oh, no, it didn't hide it. Oh, didn't hide it again. All right, hold on. Azure.com. All right, cool. So again, we come back in here. We can see our resource. Right now, there's no request information coming through. So I imagine you have App Insights isn't 100% working for that yet. So you can come in here and see your functions, which they don't actually show any, which is weird. I wonder if we went all resources. No, it's just under static web app. So interesting. So I know it has to deploy a function for you under the hood. So I was just curious to see if it actually showed up as its own separate resource, but it doesn't look like it does. But so far, there you have it. That's using Azure DevOps to deploy just a basic application. It's a static UI that's already been compiled and pre-rendered, or compiled, not pre-rendered. It renders whenever it serves up, but it already gets compiled, and you have your function backend. So I think maybe later we'll actually try to do something along the lines of, possibly shipping this out with Blazor, seeing what we can see what we could do there. But yeah, no, it was relatively easy, and I think it would be nice to iterate on this to actually see where we can go and what we could do with it. Because right now it's just not doing much. We don't have any sort of compilation or build process in here, but there are going to be various ways that you can accomplish that. You don't necessarily have to use the built-in functions that are provided to you in this tool. I'm sure that you could kind of do your own build process and go get that drop file, which would look exactly like what you see here. So that may be something that we can explore later. But I think that's about it. So I think, let's see if anybody didn't have any questions. Doesn't look like we have too many viewers, so I may just go ahead and just end. There's a quick 30-minute snip of how to run through and deploy a static website with Azure DevOps. And thanks for watching.